At 5:30, we'll call the meeting of the September 18th, 2023 Board of Public Works meeting to order. Number 2, approval of the minutes of September 5th, 2023 Board of Public Works meeting. Motion, Derek. Second, Mike. Any questions? Corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? State your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Michelle Kaplan, and I reside at 2511 Lorraine Street in Marshfield. I just wanted to express my gratitude that you're going over the weed control policy. I had come to a meeting a little while back just talking about how when we got this letter in the mail, I guess it wasn't just me, it was some of my neighbors about, oh, we need to mow our lawn immediately and everything. And there was this weed control policy saying there's all these different weeds that we have to eradicate. It was just sort of unnerving, I guess, because there's so many different like pollinator plants and things like milkweed and things like that were on that list. So I'm not sure exactly what you're planning to do, but I'm hoping that it will just be better with when you get that all figured out. So I appreciate you going over it. Should I turn it off?
No, leave it on. Any other citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, construction updates presented by Kim Rasmussen, Street Superintendent, and followed by Josh Monowitz, City Engineer. Kim?
Push the button.
Door hangers have been given to all the residents on the west half of the road, informing them that American Asphalt plans to pave the west half of the road here on Thursday. Once the road is paved, our intentions for next week are to complete as much of the painting on the new asphalt surface as possible before moving traffic from the east side to the new asphalt on the west side. The road crew has had its challenges leaving this road open to traffic, and we ask for the continued support and patience while we complete our work. During the few days of the painting on St. Joe's, the concrete crew will complete other various concrete repairs from a sanitary manhole on 7th and Spruce to sidewalk replacements on the Mill and Place project of Edison. Edison has been completely subcut and has a nice base of 18 inches of asphalt millings. American Asphalt is scheduled to rough shape in Edison on 9/21, and the concrete repairs will happen late this week and into early next week. We will then plan to dirt the ditch lines to soak up the last bit of the sun before the growing season ends. The sanitary and ditching crew has been busy completing various ditch lead and sanitary manhole replacements, and we are hoping to get a small crew to complete some of the mill and fill with our patching wagon before beginning our next Mill and Place project, which is Becker Maple to Daggy. Our sign technician has been busy over the last couple of weeks setting up the traffic control for Maple Fall Fest, the cemetery tree removals, Marshfield utilities, and maintaining traffic control up on St. Joe's, while also placing stubs for the new signage on the reconstructed section of Arnold. And next week, you'll be switching gears to get the painting done up on St. Joe's. That ends the construction update. Do you have any questions?
Derek?
Hey, Tim. Thanks for the updates. First, wanted to give a shout out to the team. I've heard a lot of compliments on Paul Meadows' recent work done. I saw some awesome photos of it too. I haven't driven right on it, but it looks fantastic.
Great.
And then secondly, real quick on the Becker Maple to Daggy one.
Yep.
Is that one that's going to be accessible and rerouted as well, kind of similar to St. Joe's, or is that going to be blocked off completely with all the school traffic? Just wanted to get an update on that one.
The Becker Maple to Daggy is a ditch street, and it's a very low volume traveled street. It's not the main corridor there from Daggy to the high school.
Right.
It's that side street. I don't think that road would require much for traffic control, but all the residents on that street will have access to their driveways until the time of paving. There will be some some situations where they may have to contact one of the crew guys to get out of their driveway, but that's a pretty low volume street.
Sure. Okay.
I'm going to show it to you quickly on the map.
No worries. Yeah, I used to
Oh.
live right on the corner of, well, I guess almost on the corner of Vine and Becker.
Okay.
So I know it's a little bit further up, closer to.
Okay. Vine and Becker is the major portion
Yep.
of Becker Road. But as you approach Central Avenue, Becker Road kind of goes to Daggy Street.
Yep.
So this is the section that we're looking at doing, which is just a low volume residential street between Maple Avenue and Becker Road itself, or Daggy Street. So it's just a smaller portion of that. That's a low volume residential street.
Okay, good deal. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure there was no concern.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 5 is being pulled off of this agenda, and we will handle it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Something to say.
All right, I'll give you the construction update for contracted work. Arnold Street is nearly complete. They put the final surface lift of asphalt on last Friday. They intend to put pavement markings down this week and remove the barricades, so that one should be completed. Lincoln Avenue, the water main is complete. They are replacing some sanitary sewer manholes this week, and will continue with sewer laterals and water services. We're also removing some of the fill material or cut material out of there this week. That's where we are with that one. Questions?
Yes, great.
Not just here for looks, Josh.
What did he say? Okay, number 5 has been pulled from the agenda. Number 6, review and discussion of chapter 11.6 of the Municipal Code of Weed Control, presented by Tom Turgia, Director of.
All right, on July 11th, Michelle stopped in and spoke to us at the Common Council meeting with the same concerns about creating habitat for monarch butterflies and having some leeway in the municipal code for weed ordinances. So in section, I did include the entire code for your review with this memo. In section 1106 is in this. And in 1106 parent 6, there is a section of the municipal code that does allow for the maintenance of native prairie seeding. So I'll quickly go through that. So native Wisconsin prairie areas will be allowed and shall not be subject to section 1106 of the municipal code if the areas meet and are maintained per the following criteria. Native prairie seeding, all seed mixes shall comply with Wisconsin law. All native seeds shall be certified to be Wisconsin origin or of an origin within 250-mile radius of the seeding site. All seeds shall be guaranteed by the supplier to be true to the name and species, except for red green shall not be cultivated varieties. These prairie areas are to be kept free of all noxious weeds or weeds as defined in section 1106 parent 2 at all times. And if any time these prairie areas do not meet section 1106 parent 6B, they shall be subject to destruction by the weed commissioner per section 1106-4 and the weed control penalty of 1106-5. An example of a native prairie area that was done recently is the First Presbyterian Church on Adler Road. They took and covered up the grass on a section of their property and actually planted prairie grasses over there, and that's coming up very nice. And back when this ordinance was actually created was back in 2004 when we modified the weed ordinance to include native prairie grasses. We did this in the anticipation of opening Veterans Parkway at the time, and we're going to seeded the section between Chestnut and Oak Avenue with prairie grasses to try to avoid having to mow that. but we received enough complaints over the first summer, we ended up mowing it anyway, and it's been mowed and maintained that way since. So, those are the items within the municipal code when it comes to the weed ordinance. There's no recommendation at this time. It's for discussion purposes only to see if you guys want to do anything different with it, or if you want to, have any questions on what's existing. I know Tim is now our new street superintendent, so he's now the new weed commissioner. So he's been at it for maybe close to a month. So, if you have any questions for him, I'm sure he would be happy to answer those too. So are there any questions?
I'm just curious, the way the section reads, are those readily available like they discuss in there? Is that something realistic, or do we even have any idea at this point?
Well, I don't do a lot of weed planting or native prairie planting, so I am not sure. I would assume they are, since the First Presbyterian Church did plant the seeds according to what the ordinance is.
Okay, thank you.
Wood County annually has a tree and shrub sale, and they include seed mixes as well. And one of them is a pollinator mix. I can't guarantee whether that meets the requirements of this ordinance, but I do know they market it as a wildflower pollinator.
Yeah, I'll ask. So as I was kind of reading through this, I mean, I saw the whole section on noxious weeds, and I know I just had somebody come through my yard recently and noted that we have creeping Jenny in there. Is the concern necessarily that the weeds are within the private yard, or is it more if they're untreated, like untamed, like overgrown per se? Because I know getting rid of that is an awfully tough task, especially if you're not a landscaper. Because the moment he told me that, I was like, I have no idea what that is or where it's at. And he's like, it's everywhere.
Yeah, my yard's full of it too, and we choose not to use any type of chemicals on it. So
Yeah.
I try to overseed it to compensate for that, but it is real difficult to overtake that way. Maybe Tim, if you have any comments on that, or are you still learning the ordinance itself?
I'm still definitely learning the weed ordinance itself, but a lot of the complaints, just so everyone knows, are the letters that people receive are complaint driven by call-ins. I'm not actively currently searching for that in your yard. It comes to us a lot because they're just severely overgrown, higher than that 6 inches in height. Those are most of the calls and complaints that come into us.
Anybody else?
Are there any desires to look at other options, or are we okay with the ordinance as it's written?
Would it be appropriate to ask the young lady's input that brought this forward?
Sure.
I appreciate you asking for my input. I mean, I guess I was surprised that we only can have our lawn 6 inches or lower, because like when I was mowing my lawn before, I had it on the highest level just because like I wanted to make sure I wasn't running over critters and things like that, you know? And then once I found out that we have to have it below 6 inches, I thought, oh, well, I guess I better mow it on the lowest setting now. Otherwise, it might accidentally, get a little bit too high. So, I mean, me personally, I'd like to see it a little higher, but if you guys are actually getting a lot of complaints, I mean, I understand you have to do what you have to do. So I don't know, not working in the government, not knowing what you all have to balance and figure out. I guess I trust you guys to make a decision, but just had to give my own citizen input.
I appreciate that. I guess my what I've seen historically has been the higher weeds is when you start seeing the seeding happen that spreads to neighbors and causes concerns that way. I'm not sure about the lawn length. I would guess that if you're at a 6-foot lawn, that may invite critters to hide in it more, which may create a bigger problem. I'm no biologist or whatever works with these, but it's interesting. I guess I don't know if what's in there would suffice for any of this, and is that no longer a requirement for the length of it if it is the prairie grasses?
Yeah, if it is the prairie grasses and kept as prairie grass, it does not fall under the length requirement.
Any other questions?
I got one more,
Seeing
Mike.
that?
Mike. I got
Okay,
one more.
Derek.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this right, Tom, too. Hopefully you can help clarify for me. I see that there's a 3-day written notice. Is that, I mean, 3 days is a tight turnaround time for sure. Is there an appeal process for one, if somebody would like to come in and discuss? And then two, it looks like there's a forfeiture or an additional charge once you have that first offense, no matter what. Is that a automatic, how does that get charged? What's that process? I mean, I believe if I'm reading it right, it looks like it's a $75 first offense, $90 second offense. So when does the second offense come into play? I'm looking for just a little bit more clarity on some of that, so I better understand it.
So before we even send out that, we do put it, and Tim can get up and answer to the actual notices, because his office sends those out. We do post notice in the Marshfield newspaper and on our website and on our social media platforms before May 15th for 2 consecutive weeks to notify everyone shall follow the requirements of the municipal code when it comes to weeds. So that's the first notice that goes out to those. And then the second is this: if we receive the complaint, Tim then, or his office, then responds to that at that point.
Yeah, so when we receive a complaint, a call-in, after the complaint is received, we log it into a system that tracks all of the complaints. After it's been logged, we make a site visit and take appropriate pictures and documentation to prove whether or not there is an issue. If there is no issue, that we determine there is no issue based off of length, we close the ticket out, and it remains in the system with the pictures for evidence. If there is a weed ordinance issue, we prepare and send out the attached document to the mailing address on file for that lot. We typically wait roughly 2 weeks from the day we send it to give more than enough time in the mail back and forth. Another site visit is then performed, and we take another round of pictures. If no action is needed because the resident addressed the issues themselves, we close out the complaint. If action is required because the weeds aren't addressed, then we mow and cut the weeds. Sometimes occasionally we have to rake the leaves up because they are so long. And then another round of pictures is taken to prove that it got mowed. And then that is the information that we send the bill out from. That's the time that we track for billing, is the actual mowed time period. None of that before.
Okay, so in that 2 weeks, then, if there was a correction made, there would be no follow-up action.
Correct. We would make that second site visit, see that it was handled appropriately, and take the pictures to prove that, close the case, come back to our office, or go to another issue.
Sure. So maybe a proposed action from this would be to review the letter that Ms. Kaplan would have received, because if it is something that is a little bit more direct, I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure if there is a laid out plan of, hey, you have 2 weeks to correct this or anything like that. But if that's something we could review going forward to kind of see. Go ahead.
Well, per our municipal code, we have the right to do it in 3 days per the municipal code. I think we need to follow the municipal code with the notification, even though it does take us 2 weeks to get to the full process of doing this. We do need to make sure that those we don't want to delay that too long, where you're seeing now 3 or 4 weeks. for a notification or a complaint to be addressed.
Okay, but I mean, if our process is that we are giving that 2-week buffer to allow a fix, then maybe that needs to be built into the municipal code, because as I read it, obviously there's a 3-day buffer and that, it seems like that's it. And the action plan is immediately a charge or a fine, if you will. So I would like to see that as a possibility if we can build that in, if that's what the department's doing, is currently allowing that 2 weeks to go back out and then reassess.
Well, if you understand, when he sends the initial notice, he's also making the assumption that it takes a little bit longer for the post office to get it there.
Right.
So let's say it takes 5 days, then that 2 weeks make sure that notice is actually there for that 3 days. So it was still 2 weeks beyond that point where we're doing those inspections. I'm not sure how many actual complaints you actually have to mow per year. Is that something that
I would say pretty close to 75 to 80% of the complaints that we get, we do have to do some corrective action.
Yeah.
I can get specific details on that if you'd like.
I think that'd be good to review.
Mike?
Thank you. What do you do in situations where you have, for instance, a rental property? Does that bill get sent to the renter, or does that go directly to the owner, and does it get applied to a
Tax bill.
tax bill?
Yep. Any unpaid bill for the weed ordinance does get put onto the tax roll, my understanding. And the letter gets sent to the same place that the tax bill would be sent to.
I would also say that probably the majority of the complaints we get are those that are rental properties or those that are not, are vacant. So that those are the ones that are probably ignored the most.
Any other discussion? Seeing none? We'll move on to number 6. Review the revised resolution of the Stormwater Management Cooperative Agreement presented by Tom Pershing.
All right, in early 2008, 2010, 2014, and 2018, the city of Marshfield entered into a stormwater management cooperative agreement with Marathon County, the city of Merrill, Mosinee, Schofield, Stevens Point, Wausau, Wisconsin Rapids, Baraboo, and the villages of Cronin, Wetter, and Rothschild, and Weston, and the town of Rib Mountain. Herein, we call this group the North Central Stormwater Coalition. And the current agreement that we have is will be expiring at the end of this year. The new agreement and resolution that are attached are the only changes in the agreement are really the dates, and the remaining agreement remains the same as previously approved by the resolution. What we do with this North Central Wisconsin Stormwater Coalition is we provide our requirements for our municipal stormwater ordinance and our stormwater permit, where we do education with various schools and other entities, and help with providing some tools for installing rain gardens and other items to help with stormwater management and cleaning of the stormwater of the city of Marshfield and other communities that are part of this coalition. So therefore, I'd recommend approval of the Stormwater Management Cooperative Agreement, and that the city engineer or his designee be assigned to participate as a member of the coalition representing the city of Marshfield. I further recommend that the resolution 2352 be forwarded to the Common Council for their consideration and approval.
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
A motion.
Motion to approve? Second. Mike? Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Item 8, recommended items for future agendas. Derek?
Yeah, I think we should revisit the municipal code 11.06. I would like to do it with the whole Public Works Board. I know we got a couple members missing. I would like some additional input from them as well, and just to revisit maybe the way this is written out, and potentially if there is some sort of process to appeal or discuss prior to being fined.
Any other? If not, Motion to adjourn? Motion second. We're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.